Hello, I'm Michael Gaucher, and it's October 19th, 2023, and it's about 1:18 a.m. in the morning. I am restless, and I just have nothing more to do than to do a video on sprouting beans, right? But I had published a video on October 16th that showed how to begin sprouting beans. And now I want to do a video that shows what the end of that process looks like, right? So this is the conclusion of that process of sprouting beans, okay? And so I've just went and grabbed the beans that I've left in the dark for about 3 days, okay? About 3 days they've been in the dark. And we're going to see what the final result is. This will show both my mistakes and also my successes, what we can learn from this, and what we can do better. Now, I did 10 bags of beans. So bag number one you just saw still has liquid in it. So that was a mistake. I had too much liquid in there, and I didn't adequately clean that liquid. That might be one explanation. But when we get further in the video, there will be an alternative explanation for that. So I have two bags that still have liquid in them after 3 days, and so I have ways of mitigating that and working through that. The other 8 bags are just fine, and so we're going to go through those one by one. So if you have time to see this process in detail, then this will be very informative. I got an empty jug that previously had water in it. This was when I drank distilled water during my fast, my 30-day fast. I'm going to use it to collect the liquid that I'm draining out of the bags, any excess liquids. I'm also going to use it to for the cleansing process, because we're going to cleanse these sprouted beans as well. I'm going to do a special cleaning process. So I am pouring the liquid into the container here, and I just want to make sure that I get the liquid completely drained out of the bags that still have liquid in them. And then I recall that I have a strainer, and that was my little tuck technique. I like to tuck the bags a little bit with my fingers, right, to jostle the beans around. And so this particular set of lentils did not fully sprout, okay, and that's fine. If they don't fully sprout, they're still usable, right? You can use them for cooking. You can actually eat them as is, even unsprouted like that. When they're softened like that, they're actually still good. And so they're still nutritionally and bioavailable. So these beans did sprout, and so I just want to review them one by one. It's always wise and prudent to review each of your bags of sprouts once they have concluded their cycle or their time, right? The minimum is 3 days. So there we go. We got healthy shoots from the beans, and so that's the indication that they have sprouted, right? You want those shoots to extend, almost half an inch, and so we have that in nearly every case. So I'm sealing this up for now, but I'm going to open that back up later on in the discussion. So as we go through each one of these, it's important to inspect the bags. So I'm inspecting the top, but I'm also inspecting the bottom. Now, in some cases, you could have a little bit of ooze at the bottom of the bags, and I'm going to deal with that in a couple of minutes. And that ooze is not necessarily a bad thing. There are two different ways to deal with the ooze, right? There's actually three. The third way you could actually do at the beginning of the sprouting process, but I personally feel that is more risky. For me anyway, I don't like to do that. I would rather do it at the at the end of the sprouting process. And that is the ooze is it's a healthy ooze, but I would prefer not to have the ooze on my beans. And what I am referring to there is the ooze is healthy if you are going to consume the beans right away, but I'm not. So I don't want the ooze to develop into a bacterial growth, and I don't want it to develop into mold. So there are two ways to deal with that. Or let me talk about the three ways. Way number one, which is the way I don't do it, is before you sprout, you treat the beans with a combination of vinegar and water for about 2 minutes each, and you treat it. And there are videos that show you how to do that. I didn't want to do that because I am not experienced enough with bean sprouting to do that and not jeopardize the sprouting of the beans, right? Because if you do the vinegar wrong, you will actually cause the beans not to sprout. So that's more for someone who has precise timing and are very attentive and meticulous with the bean sprouting process. And you, in my case, I'm going to go through the sprouting process in a much more expedited way when I start out the process, right? Because that's part of my thing is I like to do things in a more expedited kind of way when it comes to this process. So that brings me to the second option, and that is, and that's the red lentils. That also has liquid retention, and I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit. But so the second way of dealing with the ooze is you just pour spring water in there and you rinse the beans, right? You rinse them at the end of the sprouting process, and that works too. And I used to do it that way. But in this process, I did it a third way. I mixed a small solution of apple cider vinegar and spring water, and I poured it into each bag, and I let it sit in each bag for about 2 minutes, and then I drained the bag of that solution. Now, you see this? This is called Trace Minerals Concentrates Drops. And I put it into those two bags that have retained the liquid. And it might explain why those bags retain the liquid. And so, anytime you don't use just straight water, that can throw off the sprouting process. So, for these two bags of bean sprouts, I wanted to do an experiment where I added extra minerals to the water besides the natural spring water and see what that did to the nutritional value of the beans, right? But as in my previous experiment with coconut water, because I tried to use coconut water for the same benefit, and that didn't succeed either. Um, so I shouldn't say either, right? I don't know if that particular experiment there was unsuccessful, because what I'm gonna do is I've drained that water and I'm gonna put those beans back into a sprouting rotation. Because if your beans don't sprout all the way and generate those shoots, they're still in the game, as it were. And so once you drain the water, that's a new opportunity for them to attempt to sprout. So I'm gonna give them 24 hours to show signs of shooting, of generating shoots. And then if they don't, then no loss. They're still edible and can still be used in a bean soup, a bean meal. I may even be able to make a dal tatka with them, or some lentil soup, some lentil soup type of thing, Indian style lentil soup type of thing, and see what I can come up with that. So that's all good. That's that ooze I was talking about, right? If you can see it. And so I'm going to clean that. And so I'm going to, I already have my solution of apple cider vinegar and water set up. And I'm going to pour that into each bag. And then I will follow up by draining those. And then I will pour in some spring water and let the spring water sit in each bag for about 3 to 4 minutes each, maybe 5 minutes. That part doesn't matter in terms of duration. And then the important thing in each case is close the bags, shake them up so that you can distribute the liquid solution, whether it's the apple cider vinegar, and it doesn't have to be apple cider vinegar. It could be regular white vinegar. That's what most people use. They use white vinegar. I don't have white vinegar. I have apple cider vinegar, which is just fine. But I use apple cider vinegar for just about everything, right? So I use it for meals. I use it for recipes that I cook. I use it for liquid detox. I use it for salads. So, that's part of my efficiency routine that I got going on, right? I want to take one element and use it in a wide variety of ways. And apple cider vinegar for me is one of those elements I can use universally. This is one of my other experiments where I combined red and green lentils together, and that experiment was a success. So I'm very pleased with that. I'll have some comments about red lentils versus green lentils later on. But first, what I want to do is I want to take a moment to talk about microgreens. So let's introduce my first attempt at doing microgreens and let's see what happened here. So they start out the same way as regular bean sprouts, 3 days, okay? And I'm going to say this is, and as I am putting this video together, you and I both are seeing this for the first time. So what I'm seeing is I actually like this better than using the resealable bags. So I'm like, wow, this is actually much more organized, much better distributed. This is a cleaner result than what I see with the resealable bags. It's much more, how should we say, consistent. And I use less water with this. So it's more economical overall than using the resealable bags. And it's more straightforward. So I may switch to this. I have to think through that a little bit more. But I just want to say that starting out, this is a better approach. So the next step with this is to put the lid back on it. But I'm going to put some water in there first. And so I'm going to keep this watered a little bit because I have studied microgreen cultivation for a bit, and you want to keep it moisturized. Most of the best techniques I've seen use a spray bottle. I got a spray bottle. I just hadn't prepared the spray bottle yet. I had other things going on, but I got a spray bottle that I'm gonna keep set up with spring water, and so in the future, I'm gonna spray the beans, right, rather than just pour in spring water like I'm doing now. But pouring in the spring water is fine. But the next major step on this, okay, after leaving it in the dark for 3 days, just like the bean sprouts, this goes into the sunlight. So we'll put the lid back on it. And the importance of the lid is it keeps the moisture in there in terms of evaporation cycle, okay? So, but it's going to be by a window. And so it's going to get that sunlight, and photosynthesis is going to kick in. And that is going to hopefully, because remember, this was my first attempt at microgreens. Hopefully, this will convert from these shoots from these beans into actual leaves, microgreens, right? And so I'm putting an emphasis on the microgreen part because for me, this is going to be an alternative to buying salads at the grocery store. So once I pull this off successfully, then I can reduce my purchase of salad. Let's talk about the economics. So I bought a bag of beans for $3. $3. And you see how much that's stretched in terms of quantity of food, right? And so you're looking at what? So 2 bags of beans, so $6 overall. $6 for 2 bags of beans. I got 10 bags of beans that are sprouted that I can use for just over a week alone for one meal per bag. And then if I get these greens going, that's another what, maybe 4 or 5 days for that large quantity of potential greens that's going to generate. So that's 2 weeks off of $6. 2 weeks off of $6. That is significant. And so that's the big picture there. So if you made it this far into the video, that is the major takeaway here. So here's where I'm cleaning the beans, and I'm pouring it in. I'm pouring the residue. Now I'm going to keep this liquid in this jug, right? I'm going to keep this liquid in this jug, and I'm going to give the liquid back to nature, because from my understanding, the leaves and flowers out in nature, they actually like this type of water. But over time, I might find ways to reuse this water for other growing things that I end up doing. So I'll just get into a practice of retaining the water, and then for now, I'm just going to I'm going to pour it outside. I'm not going to pour it down the drain. And then over time, if I expand the amount of growing that I do into other types of growing processes, then I'll have a ready-to-go liquid to assist in those growing endeavors. Now this is how I'm cleaning, right? See, so I shook up the water solution in the bag that the beans had sprouted inside of. Then once I drained that, right, then I got a new resealable bag. Remember, these are cheap resealable bags. You can get like 100 of them for $2, okay? 100 resealable bags for like $2 if you do it right. So don't worry about using bags, right? This is about sanitization, about being sanitary, having good hygiene with the handling of your food and the stocking and storing of your food. So anyway, so I'm transferring this into new bags that don't have any residue, right? Because the original bags are fine. They really are. It's just that I just want to be super clean with the way I handle my food. Right? That's just my own personal preference, my own personal way of doing things, right? And so I'm going to store these in the refrigerator, and I just want my approach to be professional. I want it to be buttoned up. I want it to be neat, and I want it to be immaculate, right? It's just part of my top to bottom way of going about things. And it also helps with efficiency, right? It takes a little bit of effort up front, but it pays off, both psychologically, mentally, to know that I got clean food, properly grown, properly approached, and when I grab it, everything just fits into a plan, right? And I didn't cut any corners. So, yeah, here we go. And you know, I fasted for 30 days, and if you see my skin on my hand, it got a little breaking there. That breaking is actually a positive thing. That's the regeneration of my epidermis, right? The old cells on the skin is going away, and when that cycle completes, just like these beans, I'm going to be renewed there as well. So if I were somehow miraculously able to fast for 60 days, then the physical regeneration would be even more dramatic, and I would reverse my age even more significantly. But I just wanted to toss that in there as a side discussion because this is a long video. So, but we're about to wrap up here. So I am getting everything bagged up, and here's the thing about bagging, okay? Closely attend to this. You don't have to open the resealable bags all the way, right? These resealable bags, if you put your hands all the way in there, the bottom can open up so it's like flat at the bottom. You don't have to do that. And it's actually preferable if you don't when you're going to do this type of storage in a refrigerator and pack and go. Here's what I mean by that. You're trying to reduce the amount of air in the bag. So when I take the first bag and then I scrunch it into the second bag, where the second bag doesn't have the bottom fully opened, right? And I'm able to somehow get all those beans from bag 1 to bag 2. I don't have to put as much effort into getting the air out of the second bag. So, with that done, this wraps up this process, and check the other videos for more insights.